Okay, what have we got? What'd you come up with? What makes somebody a great leader? What makes somebody the kind of leader you want to work for? What do you got?
Visionary.
A visionary, what does that mean?
Has an idea of where we're going.
Okay, vision or direction, good. Okay, what else? Honesty, okay. Tell the truth all the time, right? You always tell your customers and your employees the truth, right? Yeah, really. What else you got? What you got? Sorry? Appear to be honest. Oops. Now this is really interesting with this group. He said integrity and he said appear to be honest. Are they had cross purposes there? Let's say integrity. Okay. An educator. Okay. Do you have to be the expert? Do you have to know more than the people that work for you? Isn't that interesting? A lot of people get caught in that trap. Yes, you are an educator, but a lot of people in leadership get caught in the trap that I have to know everything there is to know about this particular situation, so I can. Why do they do that? Why would anyone want to know everything? So you never become reliant on anybody. Oh dear. I don't need that team. I'll just shut it all down and do it myself. But why do people do that? Why do we think that we have to know sometimes more than anybody else? What does it do for us? It strokes our ego. Isn't that interesting? Because if those people keep coming to me for the answers, how's that going to make me feel? Oh, okay, I got it all. I know. They need me. When I go to work in the morning, they need me. If I don't turn up, the whole place will fall down. Anybody run their business that way? It's a scary concept, isn't it? But a lot of people try and hold all the power by all the knowledge. You don't need to know everything. Okay? But you do. That's very true. It's important to know your business, absolutely. But if you spend all of your time in the back room reading about everything, so you know everything, you're not spending the time out where the business is being done. We know that already. Okay, so you need to have some knowledge. But you hire specialists, you hire people that are going to learn that stuff. You hire people whose whole focus is about learning that one piece of the business that they need to know. What else have we come up with for a leader? A risk taker and approachable. Let's get both of those down. Anyone ever had a leader that wasn't approachable? Huh? How did it make you feel? Why did you feel good? Couldn't get the answers. How did you, when you wanted to go and ask a question because you need to know something or you needed some direction on a particular policy, how did you feel when you went up to that person or you even thought about going up to that person? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a scary thing. Okay, so they need to be approachable. What was the other one we had?
Risk taker.
A risk taker. Okay, we'll put that down. Risk taker. How big of a risk? Anyone planning on getting into the insurance business? Okay. Risk taker. What else? What else did we get for a leader? Key things about a leader. Positive and what? Positive attitude. Okay, we got that too. Because you wouldn't get very far going to work going, well, it's probably our last day today. Yeah, the doors are going to be shutting. I can feel it. You wouldn't get very far, would you? You can just see your employees walking out the front going, oh, what time's my interview again? That's right. What else have we got? Motivated, yeah, positive. To know what you're doing, some knowledge. We got kind of covering most of that. What else have you got? Consistency and passion, yeah, consistency. Why consistency?
Well, you can't have one rule for one employee for another rule for another.
Ah.
Employees have to be confident to follow the
Yes. And there's another quality that that goes hand in hand with that. It starts with I. Anyone got it? Impartial. Do you like some of your employees more than you like others? Come on, come on. Have you got employees that you think, these people are great? And you got other employees who go, oh, God, there's that person again. Oh, you know, and they walk in the door and you just start to get the whole thing happening. Can that influence your behaviour towards them at all? Can sometimes, because we're human, can sometimes that influence your behaviour at a time when it really doesn't need to? You might lean on them a little bit more when they don't perform than perhaps your wonderful golden-haired employee who does everything right most of the time. Yeah, that's interesting. So the consistency and integrity thing go hand in hand. We have to be a bit of an umpire as leaders. What else? A communicator. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Communicator. Why do you need to be a communicator? Why do you need to be a good communicator? But shouldn't you just be able to give them a manual and say, this is your job, learn this, and off you go? That's what they do with a lot of government employees, isn't it? That's why you get such great service. But shouldn't you be able to do that? I mean, it's their job. They know it. Why do you need to communicate? The job's fluid and it changes. What else?
Get everyone working together.
Get everybody working together. Yeah, that's a key. To motivate people, communicate with them. Yeah. Is there anything else that's really important about being a good leader? Willingness to learn. Can we call that open-minded? Just to kind of cover a couple of bases. Open-minded. Has anyone here ever learned anything or something from one of your employees? Yeah? Isn't that interesting? But when we were growing up, who did we have as role models? Parents. How many of us could tell our parents anything when we were about this tall? How many people got away with telling your parents something and having them pay attention? Anybody? Well, maybe half a person. Anybody else? Interesting role models when we're growing up, isn't it? I'm your parent! You do. It's my house, it's my rules, you do what I say. Yeah. Anything else? Interesting communication, and it's all one way. My way or the highway. Anything else?
High expectations.
You need to have high expectations as a leader? You need to have high expectations. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that sounds high expectations of who?
Of yourself and everyone. You expect the best.
Do you think that people will always meet your expectations? Probably not. Probably not. But we can give it a good push. It's like athletes when they aim. You don't see athletes walking out there going, well, I guess I'll get out there and give it a shot. It looks a little bit high, but we'll see how we go. They don't do that. They're like at 11/10 when they're at it. I'm going to make this thing, I'm going to kill it. And they get out there and do it. Because they have to, because even if they knock off 25%, they're still going to make it over the bar. So you've got to have those high expectations. But out of all these things we've talked about, anyone else have any really earth-shattering additions to that?
Decision to caring.
Caring, yeah. So caring, okay. Yep, what else? Enthusiastic, positive, I'm running out of space here, but yep, you're absolutely right. Enthusiastic, what else? Sorry? To see people's strengths, okay. You look in your people and find out what they're good at. Okay. There's a lot of stuff. Of all these things here, we probably could go on for a few more, but let's have a look at the ones we've got. Out of all these qualities here, and I realise some of you can't see them in the back of the room, so I'll run down. Maybe you can. Okay. Vision or direction, honesty, integrity, knowledge, approachable, risk-taker, positive, consistency, good communicator, open-minded, high expectations, caring, and willingness to see people's strengths. Everybody in this room does that, don't you? Who embodies all of those qualities? Stick your hand up. Oh, outstanding. Where's my chocolate? Okay. We either got three fantastic people at the back or people who think an awful lot of themselves. Who are the hands? There we go. Oh, 1, 2. What else? Oh, look at that. What a shot. Anybody else? Any other heroes? Oh, one more. Okay. Either needs a sugar rush or is being honest. One of the two. Okay. Out of all these qualities, we've kind of touched on it already. What's the most important thing you have to focus on? That encompasses a lot of it. Communicate. This guy right here. I started off telling you the story about Continental. One of the first things they started to do when they were bleeding $55 million a month, which is a lot, and looking at bankruptcy, was they started to communicate a lot with people. They had the same planes, the same employees, okay? The same folks doing the job, the same customers, well, some of them, a lot of them left. but the same people, and they had to turn this thing around and make it work. And the first thing they did was they started communicating. And when they started communicating, after a while, people started to listen. And they started to believe that they had some kind of stake in what was going on. What else they did, we'll get into a little bit later on. But they started to communicate. Key thing, and communicate. Does everybody communicate the same way? Are there different styles of communication? Not methods, but styles, the way we emote when we communicate. Flip your pages over to the next page. We're going to do another quick little exercise. You've probably all seen these before, and it's always fun to revisit them, have a look at ourselves and the people around us. We're looking at the most common styles of communication. It should say passive, aggressive, and assertive. Now you can think in terms of your customers, you can think in terms of the folks that you work with, you can think in terms of yourself if you're brave. Okay? Let's take a couple of minutes and look at these and say, okay, well, these are the styles we've heard about before. We know maybe some of our friends do this sort of thing. Okay? What do they look like? What's the downside and what's the upside? Just take a few minutes, have a look at that, and we'll have a little bit of a discussion. Think about what these things look like. Think about how customers sometimes behave when they come into your shop. Think about how your employees behave sometimes. Think about how your families, how many people have children? Oh, a lot of them. Good for you. Think about how people around you communicate. Yes. Yeah? Anyone vent on paper? I know this aggressive person, this is what they do. Okay. Ever try to get an answer out of a passive person? Get a decision out of it? Let's have a look at what we came up with. And it magically appears. There we go. What are the characteristics, typically what are the characteristics of a passive person, a passive leader, or even just a passive person in general in a situation, in a communication situation? What are their typical characteristics? Slow to react. Why are they slow to react? Yeah, they lack confidence. There we go. They're unsure. Are you reading from that list? I've already written it out once. All right, what else you got? What about passive? How many people know somebody in your life right now who you would consider to be passive? They kind of let life roll over them a little bit. Anybody? Yeah? Anybody have a partner that's like that? Okay. Oh! Alright, a little reaction from that time. Alright, so we've got the passive. They're slow to react. And react, I think, with passive people is the key. They react. Okay, they react. Wait for something to come and slap them in the head before they decide they should act on it. Unsure of themselves. What else? What do passive people look like? How do they look? They what? They sit back? Yeah, sometimes. What else? Not motivated. No, not particularly motivated. They don't participate. They don't participate. No. What else? What else? Just give me the highlights. What else have we got for passive people? Are they good decision makers? No. No, it's hard to get a decision out of a passive person. Yeah, they're not decisive. Alright. Let's jump on. We kind of got them sussed out a little bit. You can tell sometimes by their body language they're not great. How do you feel when you're being led by someone who's passive? Yep, we'll jump back a little bit. Yep. Passive and leader. Saying passive and leader don't seem to gel together. Has anyone ever had a passive leader? Have you ever been frustrated by your leader sitting there and not acting when you know stuff needs to be done? How frustrating is that? How long do they stay as a leader depends on their boss. Doesn't it? What's the willingness at the top to create change? What's the willingness at the top to say, we want this thing to work, and you're not cutting it for us? Let's talk about that. All right, what about aggressive people? What do aggressive people look like? Angry people.
High blood pressure.
High blood pressure. How does that come out when they're talking to you?
Sweating and getting all red.
When they need to get a point across, how do they do it? That's it. How do they do it? They're very out there, aren't they? Is it a particularly productive way of doing business? No? Not particularly? They swear a lot? So give me the highlights of aggressive. What do we say about aggressive people? Aggressive people in leadership or just communicating? What do we come up with? They're self-opinionated. Yes. Are they interested in anybody else's opinion? No, not particularly. What else? They're demanding. They're what else? They're emotional, yeah. Impulsive. Irrational, somebody said, I heard that. What else? Come on, you got to do better than that. What else? What do you got? So critical? Critical. Okay. Critical. Yeah. Are they fun people to be around? On their terms? Yeah. You'll come to my meeting and you will enjoy it. Correct? All right. What did we come up with assertive, on the assertive side? That's an interesting one because we've all read these self-help books and we all know we're supposed to be assertive, right? What does that mean? What does it mean? They're a decision maker. How do they make decisions? Arbitrarily? They might have a discussion. They might communicate a bit more, won't they? Who did we say the experts are? Are they always us? No. Okay, so they're a bit inclusive. They might communicate a bit more. What else? They take control. Yeah. Yep. What else? They're organised. Yeah. Yep. What else? They empower people. Yep. They delegate. And in fact, delegating is a way of empowering people, isn't it? How do you empower people? You give them a responsibility. That's how you empower them. Empowerment's one of those funny words, you know? It was such a warm and fuzzy word, been used for a long time. Empowerment. It's like someone's going to go and sprinkle fairy dust over everybody and empower the world, right? Make everybody feel good. Empowerment is all about giving people the opportunity to perform and then helping them perform. That's empowerment. That puts power back in their hands to execute a task and be successful. What else do assertive people do? They what? Educated decisions, okay. I'm looking for one thing that they do, and it's kind of part of one of those components up there. One thing they do better than perhaps those other two types. Communicate. What part of that? I can communicate unidirectionally. They listen. They listen. Isn't that interesting? They listen, and that's a big L. Listen. Listen. Anyone read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? Yeah. How many people have read it? Okay, a few people have read it. It's a pretty funny book. I was quite amazed when I read it a couple of years back in the United States, and one of the things that really hit me was that there are, now I had a lot of trouble saying this in the US, by the way, because you can't say anything over there without getting sued, but there are definite differences in the way people communicate. And males and females communicate, interestingly enough. To the ladies in the room, may I please ask a gender-based question, and that is, do all the men that you know listen well? Okay. Why do you think that is? Listen. Is listening a key communication skill? In this busy world today, when you're dealing with people, when you're dealing with your customers or when you're dealing with your employees, is it important for you to listen? Yeah, it is. If somebody comes in and they're upset about something, and you try and solve the problem in the first 3 seconds, are they necessarily going to be happy? I learned an interesting lesson. When I first met Suzanne up there who was helping me today, I was living in California, and I had a pretty nice life. I was living on a sailboat, looking after a 60-foot sailboat for some folks. You know, not too much stress in my life. She was flying as a flight attendant. 5 days a week, back and forth across the United States, dealing with all kinds of passengers and stuff like that. She'd come home at the end of it, and I'd look up from the sailboat. It might be it. Oh, she's home, driving down the end of the street. I'd go and say hello. Now, being a guy, what are guys good at? What do we tend to want to do all the time? What's the other thing we want to do all the time? Now, I don't want to say what we're good at, because I'll say nothing. Guys like to fix things. There's this primeval thing that goes back to, you know, hunt and kill. Here is a problem. Fix the problem quickly. That's out of my life, right? Do you like that? I love to fix things. One of the hardest things for a guy to do is to shut up When there's a problem at hand, because the way our brains are wired, this is actually a biological issue. The way our brains are wired is we operate primarily in the left brain. People are familiar with the left brain, right brain theory. Okay, left brain, logical, right brain, spatial orientation, creativity. If you're right-handed, you're left-handed, it's the other way around. Okay? We tend to want to fix. Hunt, kill, thump, goodbye. That's why when you go shopping, how many guys like going shopping with their partner? There's not a single hand up in the room because we do things differently. Oh, wait a minute, there's one? Yep, oh good, okay, we got one. An enlightened man. How many people like it when that? See, guys shop by hunting and killing. And so we fix problems. They're buying me socks. Socks. Go to the socks. I buy this. Here are the socks. How much are the socks? $6.99. Thank you very much. They walk out the door, right? Okay? They forget the fact that they need milk and they need cereal and they need blah, blah, blah. What was the big thing? Like, I put my socks on this morning, there was a hole. Let me get socks. I get socks. Go home. And that's the way we function. We have to learn to expand. There are things on both sides of the gender spectrum that we can learn from each other. But one of the key things is listen. So Suzanne would come home from flying 5 days, being harassed by passengers all over the place. And I would sit down and, having read a few books and knowing I'm supposed to be sensitive, say, well, how was your trip? Well, I had this happen and that happened, this person did this, this trip was terrible, and this signal was horrible, and then we got snowed in Chicago. And in the first 3 sentences, what was I trying to do? Fix it. Fix it. Well, you could next time, why don't you get a different trip? And why don't you go to the... 3 suggestions in it, which you go, ah! All right? And we have an argument. I go, but I was just trying to help. One of the key things... I missed that one, I probably should have got it. One of the key things as leaders is we communicate. We already identified we need to communicate well. One of the most difficult things for human beings to do in a pressurized world today is to sit down long enough to listen and actively listen to what people are saying. Gentlemen in the room, next time you go home, maybe after the conference or whatever, if you don't already do it, I'm sure all of you do, the next time your spouse wants to tell you about something, I want you to just sit there and listen. For at least 3 minutes. Even if you have to bite your thumb or something, sit there for 3 or 4 minutes and listen and don't say anything. And see what happens, yeah?
Then you get told off for not responding.
You get told off for not responding. She's on to you. But it's an interesting experiment when you listen to people. It's amazing what they also do. When you listen to people, what do they very often do? They come up with their own solutions. They solve their own problems. Yeah, when you have employees come in, one thing I learned a long time ago, which is what I call Socratic dialogue. It's a question. You ask a question. When someone has a problem, instead of trying to fix it, ask a question. Okay? Assertive people know that they don't necessarily have all the answers. They also know they have a knowledge base in the person they're talking to. If someone says, I've got this particular problem, really, well, what was your first step in trying to solve it? And what did you do after that? I'm not really sure myself. What do you think you can do? After the time, in 5 minutes they've solved their own problem. When they walk away, how do they feel? Have they created work for you or taken work away? Taken work away, because next time, what are they going to try and do first? Solve the problem. Try it with kids, it's fantastic. Mom, I need this. Really? Where do you think you're going to find it? Okay? Where's my footy jumper? I don't know. Where do you think you're going to find it? Where are the usual places you might put it? We take that responsibility on so much. Take the time to step back for a minute and make it do it. You confuse the heck out of them the first time you do it. Because they're expecting you to do what? Do it for them. Solve the problem. Anyone have employees like that? Yeah. They come to you, solve the problem for me, please. No, that's not their job. Their job is to direct, guide, encourage, and have them have learning experiences. Okay. So one of the key things here, obviously, is listening. When you listen, you find out what people know. And it's a lot easier. You cut down 50% of your work because you don't have to go over old ground. Okay? Is there one other personality type that we haven't covered on this particular sheet? These three are fairly obvious. What's that? The one with the attributes on the previous page. Yeah? That's mostly an assertive person, isn't it? We've probably covered most of those. Good point. But there's another personality style that's pretty common. These are the ones you hear about. These are the ones in all the books. Pretty common. You know what it's called? It's a combination of two of them. Anyone know what it is? Passive-aggressive. You check it. Okay. It's passive-aggressive. What do you reckon passive-aggressive is? Let's just have a quick discussion about it. What's passive-aggressive? What do you think it might sound like?
Extremes.
Extremes, yeah. It can be extremes or what else? Someone avoids problems, and then what happens when they... And then they get really aggressive. I call that sneaky, sneaky, sneaky thumb. Okay? They lean on the passive side, and they won't tell an employee or someone they're doing something wrong for a while, because I don't like confrontation. I don't like confrontation. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Are there times in your life when all of a sudden the problem's so big you just cannot... The level of pain that you have to endure to let it go on is too much and you have to deal with it? Are there times like that? Yeah, and then they go, boom! Because they haven't been dealing with it all this way. They've been saving it all up. Off it goes. The other kind of passive-aggressive person is the one that does things behind your back. Ever been in a line at a shopping centre? Now, I'm sure no one in the room does this. Someone cuts in front of you. And you'll see someone, with a child usually with them, go, did you see that lady cutting in front of us? I can't believe people do that. That's terrible. What kind of behaviour is that? Are we solving the problem? Are we letting people know what our requirements are? Are we communicating with them? What are we doing? What's the intent? Right, I'm not going to take charge of my situation, but I'm going to find a way to embarrass you. Okay? So you talk about people behind their back. And they get embarrassed anyway, but you didn't directly fire the gun, did you? You're like the hidden assassin. Passive aggressive. It's not very effective. How many people drove... How many people from Victoria, by the way, to the conference? Anyone drive here to the conference? What happens when you're driving along the road and up in front of you at some point you see a police car? What does everybody do? Slow down. What kind of behaviour is that on the part of the policeman? Think carefully. What kind of behaviour is it? It's influencing behaviour, which is... Is it really? What's he doing? Just driving along? It's assertive. I'm representing the person I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be out here doing the right